You're holding a piece of history right now, and most people walk past coins like this every single day without knowing what they're actually worth. 1. 1932. Washington Quarter. This is the 1932 Washington Quarter, the very first Washington quarter ever minted. Year 1932. That's not just a date stamped on metal. That's the birth year of one of America's most iconic coin designs. So why was this coin made? Here's the fascinating part. This coin was originally created to celebrate the 200th birthday of George Washington, his bicentennial. The United States Commission of Fine Arts held a design competition, and sculptor John Flanagan won with his portrait of Washington, based on a famous 1786 sculpture by Jean-Antoine Houdon. But here's what most people don't know. It was never supposed to be a permanent coin. It was meant to be a commemorative piece only. But the public loved it so much, the Treasury Department said, "You know what? Let's keep it." And just like that, a legend was born. On the obverse, the front, you see Washington's left-facing portrait, the word liberty proudly arched at the top, "In God we trust" on the left side, and the date, 1932 at the bottom. On the reverse, the back, you have a bold American eagle with its wings spread wide, holding arrows in its talons. United States of America across the top, e pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, and $quarter at the base. Now the composition, 90% silver, 10% copper. That alone makes this coin something special. Value-wise, a circulated 1932 Washington quarter can fetch anywhere from $8 to $50 depending on condition. But here's where it gets wild. Certain mint marks like the 1932D and 1932S varieties, those can go for $200 to over $1,500 because very few were minted that year from Denver and San Francisco. This coin isn't just currency. It's a 91-year-old piece of American identity sitting right in your hand. 2. 1944 Washington Quarter now. We're moving into the middle of World War II, and this coin tells that story better than any history book. This is the 1944 Washington Quarter, minted right in the heart of one of the most turbulent times in human history. While American soldiers were fighting on the beaches of Normandy back home, this coin was being struck in the millions. So why does that matter? Because everything about 1944 America was about survival, sacrifice, and strength. And that energy is literally pressed into this metal. The 1944 Washington Quarter continued John Flanagan's iconic design, the same Washington portrait, the same eagle on the reverse. But what makes this coin uniquely powerful is its silver content. 90% pure silver, 10% copper. At a time when metals were being rationed for the war effort, the U.S. government still maintained silver in its quarters. That tells you something about how seriously they took the integrity of American currency even during wartime. Now mintage, and this is where it gets interesting. Over 104 million of these quarters were produced across 3 mints, Philadelphia, Denver, D, and San Francisco, S. Philadelphia coins have no mint mark. Denver coins carry a D, San Francisco carries an S. And you'll find the mint mark on the reverse, to the right of the eagle's tail. The 1944 S is considered the most desirable by collectors. A well-preserved example can bring anywhere from $6 to $30 in circulated condition. But in MS 65 grade or higher, certified examples have sold for $200 to $500 and beyond. Design-wise, obverse carries liberty, "In God we trust," and the date, 1944. The reverse still features that powerful spread eagle with e pluribus unum, a reminder that even in the darkest chapter of world history, America stood united. Here's a thought that hits different. The hands that used this coin may have belonged to a mother waiting for a letter from her son overseas, or a factory worker building warplanes. This quarter didn't just buy things, it carried the weight of an entire generation. 3. 1968 Washington Quarter, one of the most explosive, chaotic, and unforgettable years in American history. And this coin, the 1968 Washington Quarter, was born right in the middle of it all. Martin Luther King Jr. assassinated, Robert F. Kennedy assassinated, Vietnam War at its peak, student protests erupting across the country. America was shaking. And yet, this quarter kept changing hands, kept moving through the economy, kept functioning as if to say, life goes on. But here's the biggest story behind this coin, and most people have absolutely no idea. 1968 was the year America quietly removed silver from the quarter. Forever. The 1932 and 1944 quarters we just looked at? 90% silver. But the 1968 Washington Quarter? Zero silver. It's made of copper nickel clad, a copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel. If you look at the edge of this coin, you'll see that distinctive reddish copper stripe running through the middle. That's your proof. Why did they do it? Simple. Silver had become too valuable. People were hoarding silver coins and melting them down because the metal was worth more than the face value. The U.S. government had already started the transition in 1965, but by 1968, the clad composition was fully established as the new standard. So the 1968 Washington Quarter represents a permanent turning point in American coinage history. The silver era, gone. The modern era, officially begun. Now let's talk mintage. In 1968, quarters were struck at Denver and San Francisco only. Philadelphia actually didn't mint quarters that year. The 1968 D had a massive mintage of over 101 million coins. The 1968 S was produced as a proof coin, struck with extra care, mirror-like finish, sharp details, specifically for collectors. Design remains faithful. Washington portrait on the obverse, Liberty in God We Trust, date 1968. Reverse carries, the spread eagle, a pluribus unum, $quarter. Same iconic look, completely different soul inside. Value-wise, circulated 1968 quarters in average condition are worth face value to about $1. But 1968 S-proof coins in perfect condition? Those can fetch $10 to $40, and top-grade certified proofs have gone higher at auction. Here's what makes this coin truly special as a collector piece. It's not the silver, it's not the rarity, it's the history it absorbed. This coin circulated through one of the most defining years America ever lived through. That story alone makes it worth holding on to. 4. 1970. Washington Quarter. Now this one is genuinely special, because the 1970 Washington Quarter is not just a coin. It's a mystery, a rarity, and a collector's dream all rolled into one small piece of metal. Let's set the scene. 1970. America is still deep in the Vietnam War. The first Earth Day is celebrated. 4 students are shot at Kent State University. The Beatles officially break up. The world is changing at a speed nobody can keep up with, and somewhere in the middle of all this, a coin is being born that would confuse and excite collectors for decades. Here's the thing about the 1970 Washington Quarter. Philadelphia and Denver did not mint quarters for general circulation that year. Let that sink in. 2 of America's biggest mints, completely silent on quarters. So where did the 1970 quarter come from? San Francisco. And only as proof coins. The 1970 S-proof quarter was struck exclusively for collector sets. It was never meant to jingle in your pocket or sit in a cash register. It was made for display, preservation, and admiration. But here's where the real excitement begins. The 1970 D Washington Quarter. Technically, Denver wasn't supposed to mint quarters in 1970. But a small number of 1970 D quarters exist. And numismatists, that's coin experts, have debated their origin for years. Some believe these are errors, transitional pieces, or extremely limited experimental strikes. Whatever the origin, if you find one, you're holding something extraordinarily rare. And then, brace yourself, there is the legendary 1970 S quarter struck over a 1941 Canadian quarter. This is one of the most famous error coins in American numismatic history. A previously used 1941 Canadian quarter somehow entered the San Francisco Mint's production process and got restruck with the 1970 S Washington quarter dies. If you look closely at these error coins, you can actually see ghost images of the original Canadian design underneath the American design. Only a handful are known to exist, and they have sold at auction for $35,000 to over $50,000. Composition, same as 1968, copper nickel clad, no silver. Design, classic Washington obverse with Liberty, In God We Trust, 1970. Reverse featuring the American eagle, E pluribus unum, $quarter. Value-wise, a standard 1970 S proof in perfect. Condition runs anywhere from $5 to $25. But if you ever come across that Canadian overstrike error, you're not looking at pocket change anymore. You're looking at a life-changing find. This is exactly why coin collecting is never boring. Because sometimes the most extraordinary things are hiding in the most ordinary places. And the 1970 Washington quarter proves that better than almost any other coin in American history. 5. 1985 Washington quarter. Welcome to the 1980s, and this coin is a perfect reflection of everything that decade represented. Bold, abundant, and quietly hiding some serious secrets for those paying attention. This is the 1985 Washington quarter, and at first glance it looks like just another modern quarter. Common, ordinary, not worth a second look. But that assumption, that right there, is exactly how people miss valuable coins every single day. Let's talk about the era first. 1985, Ronald Reagan is in the White House. The Cold War is still very much alive. Live Aid concert rocks the world. The first Nintendo Entertainment System hits American homes. Michael Jordan is in his rookie season. America is riding a wave of economic optimism, and the U.S. Mint is producing coins at an absolutely staggering scale. And that scale, that massive production, is both the story and the secret of this coin. The 1985 Washington quarter was struck at two mints, Philadelphia, P, and Denver, D. Philadelphia produced approximately 775 million quarters that year. Denver struck around 519 million. Together, that's well over 1 billion quarters entering circulation in a single year. 1 billion. That number alone tells you how deeply embedded this coin became in everyday American life. Now here's where it gets interesting for collectors. Because production was so high, truly mint condition, uncirculated examples of the 1985 quarter are actually harder to find than you'd think. Most of these coins went straight into circulation and got worn down fast. A perfectly preserved MS-67 grade 1985P or 1985D quarter, certified by PCGS or NGC, can command anywhere from $100 to over $500 at auction. Not because it's rare in numbers, but because finding one in flawless condition after all these years is genuinely difficult. Then there are the error coins, and the 1985 Washington quarter has some fascinating ones. Double die errors, where the design appears slightly doubled or ghost-like on the obverse or reverse. Off-center strikes, where the design is visibly shifted from center. Clipped planchet errors, where the coin blank was cut incorrectly before striking. Any of these errors on a 1985 quarter can push the value from $1 into the hundreds of dollars instantly. Composition, copper nickel clad, copper core, nickel exterior, that familiar reddish edge when you look at the coin sideways. Design, still the timeless John Flanagan portrait of Washington. Liberty across the top, In God We. Trust on the left, 1985 at the bottom on the obverse. Reverse carries the spread eagle, a pluribus unum, United States of America, $quarter, clean, classic, unchanged. Now here's a perspective shift that makes this coin hit differently. When the 1985 Washington quarter was being struck, the 1932 Washington quarter we started with was already 53 years old. The same basic design had been running for over half a century. That kind of design longevity is almost unheard of in modern coinage, and it speaks to just how powerful and respected Flanagan's original vision truly was. The 1985 quarter isn't glamorous. It doesn't have silver. It doesn't have a dramatic wartime story, but it has volume, variety, and hidden value. And in the world of coin collecting, sometimes the most overlooked coins turn out to be the most rewarding discoveries. 6. 1990 Washington quarter, and here we are, the final coin in our journey today. The 1990 Washington quarter, and what a way to close out this collection. The Cold War is officially ending. The Berlin Wall has just fallen. Nelson Mandela walks free after 27 years in prison. The Hubble Space Telescope launches into orbit. The world is standing at the edge of a brand new era, and this quarter is being struck right at that historic turning point between the old world and the new. But let's talk about what makes the 1990 Washington quarter genuinely fascinating from a collector's perspective, because this coin has layers that most people never bother to uncover. First, the mintage. The 1990p from Philadelphia produced approximately 613 million quarters. The 1990D from Denver struck around 927 million. That Denver number is absolutely staggering. Nearly 1 billion quarters from a single mint in a single year. The U.S. Mint was running at full throttle. And then there's the 1990s proof quarter from San Francisco, struck exclusively for collector sets, with that beautiful mirror-like finish, razor-sharp details, and deep cameo contrast between the frosted design and the reflective background. These proof coins were never meant for circulation. They were made purely for people who understood and appreciated the art of coinage. Now here is something that most casual collectors completely overlook about the 1990 Washington quarter. And this is important. 1990 sits just 9 years before one of the biggest transformations in American quarter history, the State Quarters Program of 1999. Starting in 1999, the reverse design of the Washington quarter changed completely, each state getting its own unique reverse design over a 10-year period. The classic eagle reverse that had been running since 1932, nearly 7 decades, was about to be retired. That means the 1990 Washington quarter is part of the final chapter of the original classic design era. Every quarter from 1990 through 1998 belongs to that closing decade, the last years of the original Washington quarter as the founding fathers of American coinage intended it. After 1998, that eagle flies away forever. That context alone gives the 1990 quarter a quiet significance that numbers and mintage figures simply cannot capture. Composition: copper-nickel clad. Same as every quarter since 1965. Copper core, nickel coating, that distinctive reddish stripe on the edge. Design: the magnificent John Flanagan portrait of Washington on the obverse. Liberty arched proudly at the top. In God We Trust on the left. 1990 at the bottom. Reverse: the spread eagle with wings fully extended, arrows clutched in its talons. A pluribus unum, United States of America, $quarter. Timeless, powerful, iconic. Value-wise, circulated 1990 quarters in average condition are essentially face value. But here's where attention pays off. MS-67 or higher certified examples of the 1990p and 1990D can fetch anywhere from $50 to $200 and beyond, depending on grade and eye appeal. The 1990S proof in A. PR70 Deep Cameo, the absolute perfect grade, has sold for $30 to $80 at major auction houses. And error coins, double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, on a 1990 quarter can jump in value dramatically the moment they're identified and certified. But step back for a moment and look at what we've done today. We started in 1932, the birth of an icon, struck in silver, created to honor a founding father. We moved through 1944, a wartime coin carrying the weight of an entire generation. We witnessed 1968, the year silver disappeared forever and a new era began. We uncovered 1970, the year of mysteries, rarities, and one of the most legendary era coins in American history. We explored 1985, a billion coin year hiding flawless gems for those patient enough to look. And now we close with 1990, the quiet final chapter before everything changed. 6 coins, 6 decades, 6 chapters of American history, all fitting in the palm of your hand. That is the magic of coin collecting. Every coin has a story. Every date has a meaning. And somewhere out there, in a jar, in a drawer, in an old coat pocket, there are coins just like these, waiting to be found, waiting to be understood, waiting to tell their story to someone paying close enough attention. Don't just spend your coins. Read them.